between two ladies. We're all sex maniacs, you know. Well, here we are again. Haven't you got fed up with us yet?
K9, I heard that. Bonnie Langford. What are people swearing for out there? Anyway, how does this work? I was only joking. And here comes Sophie Aldred. She's running down the back. She's coming down now. And then she rides down there. And now Sophie Aldred. She's racing in. She's trying to get his big hand there. Now, what's she thinking? Here comes ready. That little skirt. And she's disappeared. And she's on her way through. And she's coming up to the... And the big hand for Sophie Aldred. Where were you, Sophie?
Not telling.
You were at the same place that you were.
It was my turn yesterday. I was late for the same reason. Nature called.
What is nature called?
Nature called and I said, "Hi, how are you?"
All right. Anyway. Anyone want to ask a question?
Yes, I have a question.
All right, sorry.
For each of you, I'd like to know what you've been up to, what your latest projects coming up are.
Who would like to start?
Starts at that end.
And then we can work out what we...
Well, recently...
We can hear you.
Yes?
Yes, we can hear you. You can't hear yourself, but we can hear you.
Recently
that's
I did a
helpful,
play, a TV play for Channel 4 called The Patient, in which I play an anaesthetist who gets stabbed by the patient. Previously to that, I did a BBC Two production called The Healer, which was by G.F. Newman, who's quite a well-known playwright in the United Kingdom, directed by Mike Hodges. And that's about it, really.
Now, hang on. Who is Mike Hodges?
Mike Hodges directed
A play. Bullet?
No, that was PTA's.
Anyway, I've no doubt some of the fans will know other films that he's directed.
Anybody know what Mike Hodges directed? No, there we are. We lost it.
Okay.
You're a great team, aren't you? You come out here doing your best and then she undermines you with asking questions like that.
No, it's because I wanted to know. Because he mentioned it before. Are you done?
Yeah, go on.
Can I talk now?
Yeah, go on.
Oh, goody. I've been talking all day. It's very good, because actually I always talk too much. And today I've been at it all day. So even I'm getting worn out. Unusual. So what I'm doing is tomorrow, as soon as this is over, I'm leaping on a plane back to Vancouver. Monday morning, I'm getting my shop together, and it's a sort of gallery shop, and it's looking really beautiful. And I've done it in a month with a team of people, and when we first got it, it looked like. Do they have betting shops here? You know what a betting shop is. Do you have betting shops here? Anyway, it looked really sordid. It was, a really sad, sordid-looking place. And we've ripped it apart, and I've painted the walls to look like an Italian villa, and I've got all my paintings on the walls, and I've painted lots of furniture, and it's looking really, really beautiful. And people are knocking on the door saying, "What is this? When are you opening? I want to come in." So December the 5th is the big opening, and getting all these rich business people to come in and spend a lot of money. And so yeah, that's my next big project. That's what I'm up to. My own store. Who's minding the store?
What's it going to be called?
It's called, rather boring, Anneke and Company. So if any of you, when we were signing autographs, various people said they were coming up to Canada. So you come to Canada, you look in the yellow pages, you'll find it under art shops, and it's under Anneke, so you won't forget it, and you can come and see me. That would be nice to see you. Bring your big fat checkbooks. No, actually, it's lovely. We're doing some lovely things. We're doing gilded pears. So we're making little plaster fruits, and then we're putting gold leaf around them, And so you can have a golden pair for Christmas. Completely useless, but very pretty.
Are you doing little nutmegs? Little nutmegs as well?
Rude, don't want to hear about it. It's your turn. Your turn.
No, Sylvester's turn.
Not you. Sophie was asking you a question, but it doesn't matter.
What are you up to? This man never stops working.
If you want me to sit on your knee, you need only ask.
It was more fun that way. Hello? Still working. Still waiting.
Yes.
Me, what am I doing next? What am I doing next? I've
You're
got a little
crud,
list.
aren't you?
What?
You're crud.
Panto.
Running. No, I've got a little list. It says here, the next thing I'm doing is a variety show this evening at 8:15. Tomorrow, we're doing, whatever we do here, loads, and then I've got to fly off in the evening back to London to get the old red eye, as they call it, and fly into London tomorrow morning to rush to rehearsals because I'm doing a pantomime, which is a Christmas show, traditional Christmas show we have in England. It's the only thing that Britain has ever brought artistically, created artistically, in the sense that theatre was actually invented, if not by the Greeks, but by someone else. It wasn't the British that invented it. Music was invented by musicians, way back. We've never actually ever created anything. Rock and roll and all the things that we do rather well came from, here and there and everywhere, in Africa. Hello, what do you want? Who are you? What are you at? Oh, he's got his private supply. Right, Samuel Adams. It's a bit mate of Samuel Adams. Anyway, we invented pantomime, and it's never exported outside Britain. It's a great art form that we have, which goes down incredibly well in England and dies everywhere else. But the British love it, and it is a smashing celebration of theatre and a great introduction for children to theatre, because it's a very family experience, and that's what I'm going to do, really.
Who are you playing?
I'm playing, there's 3 parts in the panto.
Only 3?
Yeah, only 3,
dear.
yes.
You get 3 salaries.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's quite well paid anyway.
With Peter Davison, aren't you?
Yeah, with an unknown young actor called Peter Davison, who I think might make it one day. He's young and, kind of inexperienced, but I'll show him the ropes. And yeah, I'm going to be doing that. At the same time, I'm also doing a television series, which has got to kind of mesh in with it when I get a couple of days off rehearsal to go and do a television series called Ghoul Lashed. It's ghouls and lashed. And it's like the Addams Family on speed. It's a crazy ghoulish telly thing. And I play a butler called Crud. He's rather cruddish, and he's made up of various bits and pieces of other human beings by a tractor, who's the lady of the house. She's a very tall, elegant, beautiful ghoul. And she made me potentially as a husband, but I was a failure. So she said I could be the butler. And then she makes another husband who is perfect in every way. He's an American as well, but he hasn't got a brain.
It's Peter Davison.
Peter Davison doesn't come anywhere near it. But he hasn't got a brain. And then she creates 2 children as well. And we have a vulture, a pet vulture called Vomit, that farts all the time. And a moose, a Welsh moose. It's Welsh for some bizarre reason. A very camp Welsh moose that wants to tell you your star sign. And it goes on for a long time, until next year. I'm doing that.
Wait. What's the name of the pantomime? You didn't say the name of it.
Does it matter? I mean,
Well,
all the
I'm
same.
interested. I
Dick
wanna know.
Whittington.
Dick Whittington. And it's also, he's doing it, I like this, he's doing it at Windsor, which is, Windsor Castle. It's right, the theatre is right at the bottom, the castle is above. I used to live there, so I know it really well.
What, the castle? You lived in the castle, Your Majesty. I didn't realise. Are you Princess Di or whatever?
Listen, I did, no, but I'll tell you, when I was in...
Tell us all about Charles, his big ears.
When I was in California, California, I did on a radio show. I did the Queen's Voice. Every time my husband and I come to California, we always listen to TWAK radio. It's quite good.
So that's why you no longer live in Britain, then. Her Majesty's, she wants her cut. Sophie.
Oh yes, me. Now, what am I doing? When I get back, I'm getting back on Wednesday morning. Then I'm getting a plane up to Glasgow, and I'm doing the baby and toddler show up in Glasgow for 4 days with this big character called Tiny, who's really a girl in a big suit with blue hair and big fat tummy, and entertaining preschool children. And I have to come on and say, hello, I can't hear you, hello, a bit louder, and all that sort of thing. Very much like a pantomime, actually. So I'm doing that for a bit, and that is a sort of public appearance for the programme that I'm doing at the moment on cable TV in England called Tiny and Crew, which is on every day, Monday to Friday, 9 o'clock till 2 in the afternoon. And again, it's very much like Sylvester's thing. It's links between the programmes, and then there's a 15-minute segment, which is actually a really nice programme with, like, we make things and we have sketches and things and sing songs and generally have a nice time, and preschool children seem to really love it. So that's what I'm doing. I've also just finished my book, which is going to be published in March by Virgin Publishing, which is called Ace, the Inside Story of the End of an Era. And if you go into the dealer's room, you can, the Friends of Doctor Who have got some photographs which were taken for the front cover. Not the exact picture, but it's me with a baseball bat and a Dalek. And the front cover is me having just beaten up a Dalek, and there's a Dalek, flaming Dalek. And then the back cover is a picture of me in the New Adventures costume. And I got myself clad in a rubber suit. And
you would, wouldn't you?
with a big gun and mirror shades. We thought it would sell a few more copies.
I'll bet, yes, I'm going to buy one.
And the book is actually, it's got lots and lots of photographs that I took on set. And I've written it with my friend Mike Tucker, who was in the visual effects department at the BBC and worked on a lot of the shows that we did together.
Tried to blow me up regularly.
Yeah. And it should be really interesting, because it's sort of the backstage, what went on backstage. And Sylvester's done some interviews for it, and John Nathan Turner's written the foreword, and we've interviewed designers and visual effects people you don't really get to hear about behind the scenes, as well as some of the actors and the directors and things like that. But mainly it's my reminiscences of actually what it was like to work on Doctor Who, and Mike's reminiscences of rediscovering K9, for example, in the BBC Effects Workshop, and rebuilding it completely for Dimensions in Time, and all sorts of interesting little bits and pieces like that. So that's what I've been working on. Oh, and I've moved house as well, you know, getting a new kitchen put in, but you don't want to hear all about that. You know about my kitchen, Debbie.
Please feel free to pick from either of these questions, because you might not want to answer the first one. Any practical jokes that occurred on while you were filming that you would be willing to reveal to us? And if not that, the silliest monster you had to confront, and did you have a tough time keeping a straight face?
Well, there was never really time for practical jokes, really, was
there? The whole thing was a practical joke.
Yeah. It was more a question of just like getting on with it and doing it. I mean, we had great fun, but we didn't really play practical jokes on each other, because it would have been really kind of detrimental to the getting on with doing the programme, really. Wouldn't you say?
We didn't have the luxury.
No, we just had to get on with it.
I mean, being a Time Lord, the one thing I didn't have was time. No, seriously, there was just no time to make the programme, never enough time, so that was always a problem. So those kind of things that you would normally maybe have, you know, the luxury to sit around in your Winnebago and work out how to, you know, bring joy to your life and the boredom of hanging around filming, we never had time for that. Because we were actually enjoying every minute of what we were doing, weren't we, Sophie?
We were.
Yeah.
And we didn't really hang around that much, did we?
Nope. Except the Cybermen. but we'll not talk about them. What about you? Did you have any of these things?
Well, Anneke, you can tell the story of the T-shirts.
We've all heard it before. Haven't you heard this one?
I haven't heard it.
this
Some
afternoon.
people haven't been here yesterday.
Oh, right. Oh, okay.
Yesterday,
okay.
I mean, I'm not here today.
What happened with Michael and I were that it was when Bill Hartnell had left the programme and Pat Troughton had come in as the new doctor. And Michael Craze has it that it was my idea. I think
Was your idea?
It was easy. It's all my idea. It was all my fault. I had these T-shirts made which said, "Bring back Bill Hartnell." Right.
All is forgiven.
All is forgiven. I forgot about that bit. So around the corner of the set we came with these T-shirts on, feeling very pleased with ourselves. He was terribly hurt. He wouldn't speak to us for a long time. It was awful. It really backfired. Very bad. And then we did another one where it was his birthday. I don't know why we did this. And we gave him a pair of socks. We only gave him one. You know, it's like we lost the other one or something. And it just completely backfired. He did not have a sense of humour on these things. He just got really hurt. So that was really not good. Not good. So we did. I think we stopped doing it then because you know it wasn't working.
What about the silly monsters that made you laugh and you had to act with them?
Oh,
I think the worst ones were the fish people, which you haven't obviously seen on screen.
that is stupid.
Um,
And uncomfortable.
And the funny thing was that it was directed by the producer who went on to do EastEnders, which is the most hugely popular series in England. Julia Smith, yeah.
Didn't like her.
Well, she was hysterical. She kept breaking down in tears.
Did she? Why?
She couldn't handle actors.
Well, yeah, we gave her a bad time because she was a silly old cunt, and so we gave her a bad time. So she was a wizard. She got better, you know. It's really funny because I'm now out of it in a way, and so I sit there watching TV and I see these people. You know, they're the people who are doing big. Michael Winner doing big movies, right? I was in one of his very first movies, and I didn't like him at all. I put nettles in his bed. We were filming. I put nettles in his bed.
I don't think anyone likes Michael Winner.
No, nobody likes Michael
I
Winner.
don't really do. Jenny Agutter liked him for a while, didn't she? Was it Jenny Agutter?
No.
Jenny Seagrove.
Jenny Seagrove.
That's right.
She got nice big parts in his films, didn't she? Maybe that had something to do with it.
Could be.
That's very cynical.
Hey, we got
isn't
another.
it?
It is really.
Did we have any monsters that made us laugh?
Oh, yeah.
Well, the thing is that, I mean, you wouldn't have. I mean, the thing is, you couldn't really laugh at any of the monsters because, for fear of sort of hurting people's feelings, really. Because, like, for example, I mean, the Candyman, we'd all expected he'd be quite sinister and not very. And then this sort of licorice allsort Bertie Bassett thing turned up, and it was actually. It was never funny because it was always more of a disappointment, really. I mean, like with the dragon and Dragonfire as well. The dragon had been designed for somebody to wear who was about 6'4" and very thin, and the guy who was actually inside him was about 5'3" and rather podgy. So that it didn't look very menacing. But you always thought, oh, what a shame, you know, because it wasn't a question of like, because you knew that. It wasn't really funny because it wasn't going to look as good as it could have done, so it was a bit disappointing. That's what I always felt anyway, did you?
Yeah, that's true. And also, I mean, you couldn't laugh. You know, some poor buggers stuck in that kind of costume in the heat and suffering, and you don't want to actually suffering by making them feel that, you know, you looked utterly pathetic. The whole thing was a waste of time. I mean, that'd be very sad, wouldn't it? So no, we never had that kind of experience. But maybe you did you?
Well, I wanted to tell that. Sorry, you can't put a word in edgeways.
Get a word in edgeways?
No, you never did. It was early on the Daleks, and there was this. I thought it was wonderful. This is a photograph. It was the Dalek. The top came off, and we're in rehearsals, and it's taking a long time. And the guy who's pushing the Dalek thingy around has got bored, and he's sitting there doing his knitting. It's this lovely gay guy. He's doing his knitting, and so somebody took a picture, and the BBC wouldn't let this be shown. I thought it was wonderful. It was just wonderful. They wouldn't let it be shown because they said no. That was sweet.
And
He's sitting there doing his knitting.
No, I think the funniest thing about monsters were the first Cybermen, the way they were thrown together, and they really were thrown together. I mean, it was a question of silver spray, tennis balls, and bits of old tubing, and anything else that was fine. and just spray it all silver, and that was it, you know.
I'm just pondering on this Dalek, knitting. Exterminate, plain and pearl, drop one. Exterminate.
Next question.
Yes, I have a question for Dr. McCoy.
He's not here. Hey, beam him up, beam him down, Scotty. Actually, I am Dr. McCoy, I'm the Doctor Who, and I'm a Scotty as well.
Just a pun.
If only I could get all their wages.
No, seriously,
Yes, seriously.
when you were doing Survival with Anthony Ainley, did either of you have the feeling that this could be the last confrontation between the Doctor and the Master in their present incarnations?
No. No way. Survival was the last one we did, wasn't it?
Well, we filmed it. It was the penultimate story that we filmed, because actually we filmed Ghostlight after we filmed Survival. Apparently some of the crew, there was a feeling that they sort of knew that Survival was going to be the last story, but I mean, we didn't know anything about it. And the final scene, which is the one eventually where we walk off into the hedge in the quarry, talking about cups of tea, that was originally a lot shorter, that speech. I don't know, do you remember? And then it was rewritten. Andrew Cartmel kind of rewrote it because I think by then he and John Nathan Turner knew that it was going to be the final story, so it had to be rewritten. But we had no idea, did we?
No.
Absolutely not.
No, and Anthony didn't either, because I mean, I remember, you know, him going to conventions with them, and he said that, you know, he was quite happy to go on playing this role for the rest of his life and wanted to do it. And
I hope he does.
yes, you never know, he might come back. Like my cold has just come back now. That's better.
The first I knew of the finish of Doctor Who was when you rang me up. I was in a rehearsal at the BBC, and I think your agent had been out for lunch with somebody, hadn't they? And this person had said, "Oh, sorry to hear about Doctor Who," and your agent said, "What do you mean?" And he said, "Well, that they're not doing Doctor Who anymore." And your agent said, "Well, I didn't know anything about it." And then Sylvester rang me and told me, because we were contracted for the next season. Sylvester was contracted for the whole of the season, and I was contracted for half of it. And I was going to be written out halfway through the next season. And so, unfortunately, that wasn't to be. But the next thing I heard about it, I mean, obviously we were pretty upset about it. And I waited I think it was 10 weeks I waited until anybody actually officially told me. And John Nathan Turner wrote me a letter saying thank you for my contribution and goodbye.
And please send back the costume.
Which I didn't.
So don't tell anyone.
Right over here. I have two quick questions. The first is for Sophie and Sylvester. From an artistic standpoint, how did you two feel about doing Dimensions in Time? Did you look at it as a sketch, or did you look at it as a real story? A lot of fans that confuse themselves, I think. And the second question, any of you could answer, is what was the single most, or was there a single most difficult scene you had to do? I imagine it might be your first scene, or was it something down the road in any time in the story?
An artistic standpoint. We're at an artistic sit point.
Do you have to stand up to answer that question? Right. How does one artistic
Sketch.
stand?
I don't know.
Is that artistic standing? Anyway, yeah, no, difficult. Yeah.
I think the thing is with I'm going to sit down.
Yeah. It was your idea.
Yeah, it was, wasn't it? I think the thing is that unfortunately the fans were hoping that it was going to be, you know, the revival of Doctor Who and to get some story out of it. But John Nathan Turner's brief really was to get as many people to watch it as possible, because it was going to be on this yearly charity thing on network TV. Now, not everybody in Britain was watching Doctor Who at the time, so not everybody would have known who Sylvester and I were and the continuity of the story. So there was no way he could have a story that was referring in any way to what had gone before, because it would just be too esoteric, and the fans, it would just be for the fans, which wasn't the point, because 15 million people were going to be watching it on this one night. There were 2 7-minute episodes, and you can't possibly get a sort of a deep Doctor Who story into 2 7-minute episodes. So I think John decided that he was going to get as much popular support for it as possible, and went round enlisting the help of as many people who were in Doctor Who. So really the general public in Britain could just sit there and go, oh, do you remember? Oh, I remember her. Oh gosh, I haven't seen her for years. And then they added this thing of the 3D effect, which was again another pulling point, so that people would watch the programme and then pledge money. I mean, a bit like a pledge drive.
And buy the glasses to raise money as well. They bought the glasses.
That's right.
And the profit from the glasses went to children in need. That was the idea. I thought it was a completely confusing thing myself, but I enjoyed it, because I was in it. And I enjoyed it, making it, because we hadn't made one for a couple of years, 3 years, I don't know. And it was wonderful to be out on the street again, doing Doctor Who, because there's a lady with a witch's hat waving at me, I don't know why. Hello, madam, it's my agent. Anyway, it was quite joyful to be on the street, because everybody, ordinary people, saw us making it, saw the TARDIS and saw it, and they were all excited. And we were filming in the Greenwich, the Meridian place, down in
the Maritime Museum.
The Maritime Museum, but there's also offices for the Navy. We're still being used, and a training school for the Navy and for officers. We were filming there, and admirals were coming out, and all their staff, little children asking for our autographs and being really excited that Doctor Who was being made. It was a wonderful feeling to have that. And at the same time, there's guys fixing the roof, and they were hanging over their hard hats saying, hey, great, wonderful. People were very excited. Ordinary people were so excited in the street to see that Doctor Who was being made. So that was the nice thing about it. But I think it was a very confusing piece when it went out. Too much was put into, such a little time slot. I mean, I enjoyed seeing all those people, but I think
the story didn't make any sense at all.
No, but I think a lot of people who didn't follow Doctor Who would have been utterly confused by these 5, 7 people that kept changing. It didn't explain it quite. You were in one scene and suddenly you cut from my Doctor and John Pertwee was there or something like that. Well, it was very confusing.
And
sorry you have to leave.
Yet again,
we'll miss you, but don't feel embarrassed because we're all watching you on the way out.
That's a really nice coat.
It is, isn't it?
Coat, yeah. And also, there were, again, the curse of Doctor Who, there were lots of bits of scenes that were cut out, even in those 2 7-minute episodes. So there were too many ideas going on as well, with all the EastEnders characters and stuff as well. But it was conceived to get as many people of the general British public to watch as possible. And it worked in that way, but unfortunately I don't think it worked in many other ways.
Were you in it?
Doctor Who?
No. Yeah. Is that why you're here?
I think so,
Oh,
yeah.
right. I wondered. I just kept thinking, who's this woman following me around all over the place? I should be so lucky. No, can I... what is it called? Dimensions in Time. Were you in that?
No.
Oh, good. Anyway, that's what I just wanted to know.
They never told me anything. All those years ago, all these residuals went to my agent. I never got bloody money, you know that.
Really?
No.
Who's your agent?
They disbanded.
Oh, terrible.
Scarpa.
That must be loony.
But I want to tell a quick story, and then Michael's going to tell a story.
No,
it has nothing to do with the question at all, but it came up.
Well, mine has.
I was sitting...
I'll see you in a second.
Yeah, he'll come back to the question. I was sitting later on Hampstead Heath. Something else. I was sitting in the sun, and I'm on the bench, and there's this little strange kid next door to me, and suddenly he's turning and he says, so what is it like in the TARDIS then? And it was so beautiful because it was completely real. And I was about to say, oh no, listen, I'm an actress, and I realised, no, this is completely real there. I have to keep this going. So then I'm sitting there, I suddenly become Polly, and it had been a few years, and I'm saying, wow, you see, So that was my thing about how
people respond.
Yeah, Just nothing to do with anything, but I just wanted to tell you that. Your turn.
No, you were asking about worst moments in Doctor Who. When I first started, in Doctor Who, I'd previously had an accident and broken my nose, as you can probably see now, and there's a scar across it. And in the first about 6 episodes, that nostril is completely like that. So I went into, while we had a 6-week break, I went into hospital to have that one cleared of all the broken bone. But they burst a blood vessel in my head. So I managed to get out of hospital, get back to Ealing Studios to start the moon base, where all this polystyrene was flowing about. You remember the moon base? Or you've heard about the moon base, you've seen the moon base. And all I could think about is I mustn't get anything up my nose. And what did this bloody PA do, but directed the wind machine so it all went up straight into my face. I married her. Edwina.
That was really funny because she was the PA, and so there was always this stuff going on. You know, she'd be telling you what to do, and you'd be saying, "Get off! You know, shut up! I'm your boss. You do what you want."
I made you eggs and bacon this morning.
What? What?
Did she end up picking the polystyrene out of your nose then?
That was later.
Sophie.
What was the other bit of the question? I've forgotten. Oh, worst moments. What was your worst moment? Probably in Survival at the end with the master and the bone, and he hit you, didn't he, by mistake, and it was all hot and...
Well, yeah, that was the worst. That was an uncomfortable moment where in Survival everyone had been given a chance to practice, I believe, with the contact lenses that turned into cats. And my character, who was? Oh yeah, Doctor Who. He wasn't, you know, going to have that. And then at the last minute they changed their mind and said yes he would. And we were in the deserts of Dorset, which is this vast sand pit. It was over 100 degrees. It was, the weather was extraordinary, and it was just like being in the deserts of North Africa. Very hot, very uncomfortable. And they stick you on a platform and then put flames all the way around us. And then they stuck these contact lenses in my eyes, and there was sand in them as well. And I was in utter pain and agony. And I was battling with Anthony Ainley, and he had a big bone. And you know, as you may remember, he was hitting me with it, and he missed. And he actually did hit me. I mean, he wasn't supposed to hit me, but he did. He thumped me, so I was in total pain and agony. But the worst moment was when Sophie was in a glass encasement full of water, and it burst. I think that was the worst moment.
Yeah, you saved my life, didn't you?
I know, that's why I mentioned that. I thought you might just...
Well, tell us the story. We want to know the story.
What?
Well, it's funny because for me it wasn't a bad moment really, because it's like it's something that just happened. But I think for everybody else it was probably more shocking than it was for me, because it was at the end of a very busy day on Battlefield. The director had gone completely gaga, and he just was there was so much going on that he couldn't even think straight. And he came down to direct from the floor. I ran over to the tank to get in, and got into this tank. And he and Sylvester were standing outside, and the water came sort of pouring in over my head. And somebody had told me it was going to be nice warm water, and I thought, oh, this would be pleasant. But the volume of water was just enormous. I mean, it actually was hurting my head when it came in. So it wasn't actually that pleasant. And I couldn't hear anything because this water was rushing into the tank, and it was slowly filling up like this. And the director, meanwhile, outside the tank was going... And Sylvester, thank goodness, realised I couldn't hear a thing, and he was going, she can't hear anything! So then they started sort of making hand signals, and I was fine. And the water built up and up and up, and the volume of water in the tank got to such a point where I was just floating. My jacket filled up with air, so I was floating away. So I steadied my hands on the front of the glass to stop myself from sort of bobbing about. And we started shooting the film, the scene, and Sylvester came in and shouted, and I did my bits of shouting, and then all of a sudden, as I was holding the front of the tank like this, I just felt this crack under my hands, and I realised that the whole of the front of the tank had split, it was this thickened laminated glass. And well, Sylvester's reactions were incredibly quick. I've watched a tape because I'm now starring in a BBC safety training video. And you can see on the take that it cracks, and immediately Sylvester shouts, "Get her out of there!" And it alerted the visual effects team who were on the top of the tank pouring the water in. I just naturally shot my hands up in the air as a reaction, really, and they leant down and grabbed me and pulled me out. And if he hadn't shouted and they hadn't realised, I wouldn't have been able to get out of the tank, and I'd have presumably just gone straight through the front of the tank with all the broken glass and the water, and it wouldn't have been very nice, really. And electricity.
Yeah.
Yes, and then it was very bizarre because I came out of the tank like this, and I looked over the studio floor, and everybody was just standing there with their mouths open like this. And it was a couple of seconds, and then after that, everybody suddenly realised, God, water, cameras, electricity, television studio, and everybody just ran for the exits. And it was a really bizarre sight, you know, everybody was running away. And then luckily we found out later that one of the production operatives had been standing next to the main electricity supply to the studio, and immediately he saw what had happened. He'd thrown the switch. And,
I'd actually told him to throw the switch.
Oh, really? Did you? God, you're such a hero, aren't you?
Yeah, I don't know. I must have been taken over by someone else at that moment. Yeah, you know, because I mean, when I was in the outside of the tank, and I was, you know, doing that scene, I suddenly, it was a very extraordinary thing to see glass start to bulge out. I've never seen it. Of course, I got conceived that it could do a thing like that, and it didn't crack it. And I saw this bulging effect, and I went, fascistically, I don't know what it was. Whoosh! They did it without thinking. It was the only thing they could do. And then I suddenly realised, my God, water, electricity, and I said, switch off the electricity! And then ran for wooden stairs. I wasn't a fool. I was up there wooden stairs like to Bedfordshire very quickly.
Now I know why you wear your underpants on the outside of your trousers.
Yes, because I'm Superman. That's the funny thing about the superheroes. I suddenly conceived years ago that American superheroes all wore their underpants on the outside of the trousers. British superheroes tended to think a bit. Oh. Listen, you're Doctor Who fans. You like the British television, don't you? No, I used to wear my underpants on top of my head. But that's when I was drunk and trying to get a laugh somewhere. Right. Have we answered that question? I think we have. Right, next question.
Next question.
Being in Doctor Who has given you a chance to participate in a lot of charitable work. I was wondering if you could tell me a little bit about each of the charities you're involved in. It's mainly to Sophie and Sylvester.
Me?
Charities?
Oh, I thought I had Sophie's name. Well, I'm involved with a charity called War Child, which was set up at the beginning of the Bosnian crisis. And I mean, as you can glean from the name, it was to do with children in war. The idea was to raise money to help children in war-torn situations all over the world. But being a small charity, it started off just helping out in Bosnia, and managed. I was involved mainly as a friend to the producer and the writer who'd gone there to do a documentary and come back in the early days, were horrified at what they saw, and so they gave up their career in television and set up this charity. And I'd go and do the odd little thing for them, like bungee jump for £1,000. I actually bungee jumped for £1,000. I must be crazy, but I was. And but then eventually it's grown quite large. Lots of Brian Eno and Sting and Pavarotti and Julius Stevenson and various other big names have become involved in it. And they recently, the pop world launched a big record. It's in a way like Live Aid, but they in Britain to raise money for War Child. And then Pavarotti did a concert in Italy. And it's now got very big, or bigger. And they've asked me, I'm now a trustee of it. So I go in and make sure that they're getting the money in and taking it to the right places, I think. But they're the glorious people that did it. I had the easy job. I was just asked to get involved. Except for the bungee jumping, that was the most difficult one. I went along to this pub in the south of England near Portsmouth one Sunday or Saturday, and they were having a big weekend to raise money for Watch Out. And they had those things where they've got, you know, that Velcro suits and a Velcro wall where you run and do a somersault and get stuck to the wall. They were doing things like that. And then they had people dressed up as kung fu fight. No, not kung fu. The sumo wrestlers, you know, all that. They're doing that. And bungee jumpers. There were people doing that bungee jumping. And I came. I thought, this is wonderful. My job was to come in, hang upside down from something and accept a cheque and a Range Rover that had been given to us for the charity. When I arrived, everyone got rather drunk in the evening, except myself, and I lie. And they had this announcement: Sylvester McCoy will bungee jump for £1,000, and they hadn't asked me. And I went, oh my God! And I thought, oh dear. I mean, that's a horrifying thing. I'm here, I'm 50, and they're going to make a bungee jump. And then I thought, oh, they'll never raise £1,000 because it wasn't a very big pub, you know, it wasn't. But sadly, they did. So I had to go to bed that night knowing that next morning I had to get up and bungee jump. And that night I did actually go up in the crane and the lift to have a look down. Oh dear. So I got up in the morning, and for the first time in my life, I drank alcohol before breakfast. I was terrified. And then I went out and I did the bit hanging upside down and accepting the cheque on this bungee. But then I didn't actually jump from the thing. I was going to, I was prepared in some demented way to do it. But as I was all tied up anyway for this photo opportunity, they decided that rather than me jump, they were going to elastic pang me up into the sky. So what they did was they lifted the crane and the lift, then they stretched out the elastics. There's 5 elastics that are attached to this harness, and they held on to me. 5 men held on to me. So the whole thing stretched out, made one piece of vast elastic, and then they let go. And I took off like Superman. My fist was like that. And I went, wait, right up into the sky, flying past the lift. The lift was there. And I had a microphone with me at the same time. And I was going, oh, I was having to do a random commentary because it was a radio thing there. And I kept saying, I mustn't swear. Yes, and the only words I could think were all swear words going through my head. How do you describe this incredible, horrible, frightening, exciting, extraordinary experience? And then as I passed the lift, thinking, my God, I could have jumped out of that, now I'm passing it. And then suddenly, oh, I'm no longer going up, am I? I'm going down! Wow. And then you come down, and they have these, they blow up these kind of envelopes of things. You're supposed to save you if you break. Well, from up there, it looks like a postage stamp. It's tiny. And as you're coming down the hill, there's all this concrete everywhere else. And there's this little envelope. You're coming down, and then suddenly, you realise when you get down there, the envelope's over here, and you're actually here. So that's a bit frightening. And but you just hope there's no one standing underneath you, because they might get something on top of their heads. That's how frightening it was. And then you go back up again. You go whip, and you go way up again. Well, I don't know how many times I was up and down. It became a yo-yo. But I did it anyway. And I've got a little placard that said I did it. But it wasn't bravery. It was just I just didn't think it would happen. My underpants are on top of someone's head who was down there.
Sylvester McCoy, when you were stuffing that ferrets down your pants, did you stuff them tail first or head first?
Did you hear it in the back? Pardon? No. Oh, that's good. No, he asked me, he said, when I was stuffing ferrets down my trousers, did I stuff them head first or tail first? Right, ferret, this is a ferret. Ferrets are amazing, they're like sharks on land, sharks, they are. They've got teeth. Teeth are like, when they come together, they don't come together like that. come together like that. So that's, they bite and they hang on. In fact, they don't let go. We did this stunt show many years ago, and the idea was that I'm small, surprise, surprise. Anyway, I'm quite a small little chap, and I was surrounded by these taller chaps, and the idea was that it was like the Marx Brothers doing stunts, that kind of show. It was very wittily written, but it was also very physical, and I had to learn lots of stunts, like mentally combusting cotton wool, lying on beds of nails, putting ferrets down my trousers, exploding a bomb in my chest, setting fire to my head, blowing fire, having my head cut off, yes, having a brick broken on my chest. Also, that was the kind of the evening. So, I mean, if you didn't understand what we were talking about, at least you saw something quite interesting. Now, Ken Campbell, who invented who was the director and creator of the show, had ferrets as a pet, and he'd heard about a publican who once there was a bet put on with him, a bet that for 10 shillings, that it was an old publican, an old town, that he couldn't keep a ferret down his trousers. And he stuck a ferret down his trousers and lost the bet. It wasn't the only thing he lost. Anyway. So we had this idea that as we were getting stunts from various stuntmen around Britain, it would be nice to invent our own stunt. Well, this is Ken Campbell's idea. I don't think it was any of it I liked, but anyway. And so he thought this would be a rather good idea. So we tried everything. We tried to train a ferret. And whoever knows if they've got ferrets, that's impossible. One idea was the ferret handler, it was the idea the ferret would go up here, into a pouch under here, while he was sticking his hand down here, you see, like that. And that was the idea. But we couldn't train the ferret to do it. And the idea was that we would pretend the ferret had escaped, and then get all the ladies in the audience to stick their legs up in the air in case the ferret came along and bit them. That was it. This was for our fun and joy, you see. And sadly, that never happened. We never got that far. So one day we were rehearsing, and it was really frustrating. I said, "Oh, stick the damn thing down." And they did. And he went to sleep. Because ferrets like dark, warm places. And the act was I wore very baggy trousers, you see, very baggy trousers. And you tie a piece of string around here, and then, you can stick it down there. And then we used to have a ferret handler who would take the ferret out of the cage, feed it chicken, and show you, while someone lectured on the ferret, this ferret was it. And then we'd get someone from the audience, usually a young lady, to come up and inspect me while my trousers were down for any protection or stiffening that might be in there. It was that kind of show. Anyway, so I used to just do that, stick a ferret down my trousers. I actually did have a little pocket. There was a secret pocket there as well, so I was quite safe. And then at the end, I was trying to break my own world record in the Guinness Book of Records, which didn't exist, but we invented it. And I never did, break it, because I'd suddenly panic, and I'd suddenly do my fly, and a little ferret would pop out like that. See, I said it was that kind of show, and that was the ferret thing, really. What was really interesting, though, is we invented this, and we were doing it once in Kirby, a working class part of the north of England, near Liverpool, and no one had ever gone in there. They'd put, the Liverpool Philharmonic had gone to Philharmonic Society, had gone there and tried to entertain the people of Kirby, and they didn't want that. And they put us in, and we managed to entertain them, and were quite successful, and they loved us. But a newspaper came along, one of these people, or the Sun or something like that, came along and photographed us and interviewed us, and we were getting paid by the Arts Council of Liverpool to go into Kirby to entertain the people of Kirby who didn't get much entertainment. And at the end of this article, it explained what we were doing. At the end it said, "This might be fun, but is it art?" And they were, in a sense, attacking us for getting Arts Council money to entertain, people who didn't get entertained very much. Overnight, people all over Britain started sticking ferrets down their trousers. It became an instant tradition, as if it has always been there. It was like ancient people. We remembered our great-grandfather used to do this. All that, instantly. We'd invented it, but now... And then you suddenly saw people on the television sticking 25 ferrets down their trousers. And they didn't know that I had a secret pocket.
It's amazing that you're a father of two sons, really, isn't it?
Oh yes, it sure is.
anymore.
Mr. McCoy, there's a rumor that you've already signed on with Fox to do the regeneration scene for the new Doctor Who. Is this true?
No.
And if it's true, who are you going to regenerate into?
Well, I'm going to regenerate into Doctor Who number 8. I haven't signed anything yet. They've sent me the script. There is a script where they've got a regeneration scene. But I know enough about films to realise that next week could be gone. You know, they might do it differently. Because this is the second script I've got, and I haven't read it, but my agent tells me that it is different from the first script. The regeneration is different. Oops.
That was a shock.
Yes, so that's all I can tell you, really. I know who they want to be the next Doctor. But they haven't signed him yet, so I can't really say, because it might not be him. He's male.
Just give us the initials, we'll guess the
and
rest.
he's English. The thing is that they were supposed to...
It's not MP, is it?
No, Mr. Major is not going for the next one. Oh, he's PM, isn't he? But anyway, he was an MP.
EI. We were talking today. We were talking about Eric Idle and Michael Palin.
Oh no, those were just inventions by the press, and you know the.
I heard Eric Idle was talking about it and saying, I have never been asked to be Doctor Who.
No,
I'm sick of people asking me if I've... Alan Rickman as well, as apparently...
Alan Rickman would make a good one.
He was never asked, and he gets sick of people saying, because he's not been asked.
No, he'd actually make a better master, I think.
Yes.
But all those names were just fantasies made up by newspapers when there wasn't a lot of news on. As they have a special room. When they actually do have a special place, when there's not a lot of news, they sit around and say, what can we make up?
Yes.
No, that is not a joke. That, sadly, in our country, is an absolute and utter fact. And they just print rubbish and lies, and then, that's what it is. No, I can't. That's all I can tell you. They were going to do it in November, and then it was Amblin Films, and the BBC wanted one actor, one English actor, and Fox wanted another English person. Male person. The operative word is actor, and so that's why it wasn't made this November. But now they've got to get it out by May, I think. So they're starting in January making it. That's all I know. When I just got this information as I flew out. Arthur, you won't tell anyone, will you? You keep it quiet. Not. I don't think it is now. His name was bandied about. And he would be a wonderful eccentric doctor. But it's not going to be someone that eccentric, I don't think. No, I can't say anymore.
Ladies and gentlemen, with this tantalising tidbit of information, I'm afraid we've got to leave you now.